There is so much information out there for Street Fighter 6, and it's been a week since we saw the gameplay trailer, and since then it's just been day after day. It's just more and more leaks and information. I, for one, am super hyped for it. Games Fest 2022 is going on right now, where they showed off Kail, and I have the trailer and my reactions to it right up here. During Game Fest 2022, they also had a 4-character build, an early build of Street Fighter 6, and Theoryfighter had a chance to play for 1 hour, and he made a video about his thoughts on the Parry system. So we're gonna watch this and go over it, and there's a few gems that you might have missed on your first watch through of it. Thank you, Theoryfighter, for getting the footage and getting a chance to play the game and sharing this with us. If you guys want to go and take a look at their video, the description will have that link, and give it a like and a comment. Without further ado, let's jump into the video. Let's pause straight away. You have critical arts, and it's available to you if you are under 25% health. We'll see it a few times in this video. I am not sure how this changes. However, from what I'm hearing, it actually does more damage. So think of it like the rage mechanic in Tekken, I believe. The lower health you are, do have a chance to come back. So this CA will do more damage. In the commentary to some of the videos, you'll actually hear Vicious say they're throwing out a critical art. Now, I don't have a problem with comeback mechanics. I think they're super important to competitive games in this year. You just have to have something to stop the snowball effect, but I know people just are not a fan of them. The way the round starts look really cool, but the first thing that comes to mind is I'm not sure how I feel about this for people with photosensitivity.
How things work here is not...
It's a lot of flashing, and although I think it looks cool, it might be a bit much. I think they might want to think about that.
There was one mechanic I needed to try.
So I haven't had a clear explanation about this. Punish counter is different from counter hit. We see counter hits a few times, but I haven't heard anyone like actually give a proper like explanation to what a punish counter is. So I'm assuming it's that you punish them if they're in the recovery of a move, and because of that, it probably gives a counter hit. So it's different from a move being active and your move had priority or something. I think this is like your move has ended, you're in recovery, and now you're punishing it. I don't know.
The opinion on parries is generally very divided.
So there's something very interesting going on here. Let's look at Jamie's drive gauge, right? So you saw that here, right? Let's go back just a hair. When you block specials and normals, you don't take chip health. Instead, the drive gauge actually takes the chip health, right? But also, yeah. So this looks like he lost like gray damage, but it's not. This is just, it shows how much damage they took. And then this is just the animation for it going away. It just happens on the same frame in which they blocked. Also, you get to tell when you get a hard knockdown, which is cool, right? But so if you block normals and specials, you do not take chip health. You actually take chip off of your drive gauge. Taking chip off your gauge, I think, is more punishing than health. And the reason being is that your drive gauge is so important. But you know what? You do get it back, so I guess it's not that bad. If you are out of drive gauge, you actually take chip health. I also do like all of this information on the screen. My face is blocking the counter hit. However, you know, being able to see different information, and also it looks like they are on different planes. So the counter hit is on a different plane than hard knockdown. So you'll be able to like confirm what things are without having to dart over to the side, you know? So you see that he tries the parry there and he loses his drive gauge, Ryu, that is, right? He lost half of a gauge because if you hold it down, you lose more gauge. It does seem like there is a considerable amount of recovery for this, right? I'm assuming he is no longer in parry. This is just the recovery frames. And I believe you can be counter hit for this. Jamie starts the round off. He tries to sneak in a drink.
But I want to...
He tries a parry and then goes into drive rush, right? So his parry comes out, right? I'm assuming it's active here. But then you watch, he rushes out of it. So the parry took half a bar, and then the drive rush took like another like bar almost. It looks like maybe like another half or so. You do use a lot of gauge to do things like this. However, this kind of stuff seems like it's important.
Experience. So let's begin with the biggest attribute for a parry and probably the...
When did Jamie drink?
Let's begin with the biggest attribute.
Oh, interesting. Oh, we saw this in the Jamie trailer. Some moves end with drink. And you can see his drink gauge up here. Now, as of right now, I don't think you lose drink level from knockdown. So once he drinks, that's it. So Jamie gets really strong over time.
And probably the defining line between...
That punch did a lot of damage.
Let's begin with the biggest attribute for a parry and probably...
So the higher drink he is, the more this is going to do because he gets an extender, but this move looks like it's going to be really good. Guess we got to start getting used to parrying it, you know?
The defining line between...
Oh, this is huge. You go flying when you break a throw. You reset to neutral heavy in this game, which is good because throws are incredibly strong in Street Fighter V, and the whole game is based around that. Even on throw breaks, you're still kind of close, which could lead to scrambles. Now, look how far you are. This is actually good. It actually pays to break a throw. In Street Fighter V, it's almost like if you take a throw, it's okay, but you're still close to the aggression. It doesn't really like pay to break a throw because I believe you're like sometimes just as close and you're susceptible to shimmy. Now, if you break a throw, it actually does pay because you get far away. Look how far you go. That's great. So, oh, damn. What a screen. What a screenshot. So I'm assuming baiting out parries will be this game's version of shimmy. Parries do come out on frame 1, but that doesn't mean you always get a perfect parry on frame 1. So I know I've been talking over Theoryfighter. So he's basically talking about like it's unsure when he first started to play whether or not parries will be frame 1, like Third Strike, or will they have startup like Ryu's in Street Fighter V? And as I said, they start up on frame 1.
Well, from the looks of it, to my shock, it's frame 1. As you can see here, I'm holding parry on wake up.
So yes, he's right. They come out frame 1, but important to notice, that doesn't mean that the aggressing Ryu's attack was active on frame 1. So here's the parry. Looks like it's hitting. I think he missed his. I think to get a perfect parry, my thoughts on it would be you have to parry within the window, and at the same time, it has to be first active frame of the move. I could be wrong, but Ryu's attack is active at this point. We could tell that, but it wasn't the first frame. So it's meaty, but it's not the first active frame.
As a note, there is no slowdown on perfect parries when it's done against projectiles, which is important to give projectiles meaning.
This is really important. For an example, you cannot perfect parry a fireball and then go straight to super arts. Like that's not going to be a thing, which is good because with parry being in the game, although you can use the fireball as a means to build back your gauge through drive parries, you don't get the extra benefit of the slowdown. So although fireballs are decentivized because of it gives back gauge, think about matchups in Street Fighter V like against Nash using V skill 1. Throwing fireballs actually gives him back V trigger gauge. Or the same thing with Gil, the blocking. You actually are going to build his V trigger even quicker. It's going to be the same thing. Every parry that you give your opponent is more defensive options. It's more offensive options. It's one step further away from trying to put them, into... I haven't had an answer to this yet. However, if you look at Jamie here, I think this is a throw. I think Jamie does have a command grab. This also counter hits. I do believe if you counter hit throw, you get a hard knockdown. I don't know if that is Jamie's command grab. I can't say because actually I think it. Does he drink after that?
Big aspect of parries in Third Strike.
No, yes, he does drink. So I thought it might have been his command grab that ends in drink. No, he just drinks. I know there is a different property with counter hits and sweeps. Like Kail is able to combo after his sweep if it counter hit. Maybe it's the same thing when it comes to throws.
fact there is none.
Very cool. So Jamie has 4 drink levels, and when he goes into his 4th,
Parry's in third
that's when his hair comes down,
and the fact there is none.
and
Forward or down
he gets really strong. Really cool. I think that's awesome. It's like a G mixed with Nikali. It's really cool.
Game, so of course there is an
So we see here that
there is none. You're tapping forward or down
drive
parry in this
impact
game, so
doesn't counter hit, so you don't get that big boom, but it does break guard. And I don't know what you can do with that.
so of course
It does take a bar. It doesn't seem like it takes bar away from Jamie though.
You're tapping forward or down to parry.
So he takes chip damage on that. Oh, it does take bar. Okay, cool. It takes bar.
Of course,
Nice.
There is an element of risk, but the window to actually
He goes back with the same thing.
punish is
Cool.
tiny. You're tapping forward to parry and can
You see how quickly Ryu loses all of his gauge? Ryu has full gauge at this point, right?
the fact there is none. You're tapping forward or
Ryu takes chip off of the drive impact,
down to parry.
uses EX gauge, the OD gauge, right? He uses some of his, fine.
In this game, so
Then goes into drive impact. Just from using an OD move and drive impact, half his gauge is gone.
of course there is an
So you can see that his gauge starts to blink, but look at where it started. That's a lot of gauge loss. And it starts to blink because the game is going, whoa, you're close to burnout. Like, you do take chip off your gauge for one. Second, if he uses any defensive tools, if he uses drive reversal, if he parries, it's like it's closer and closer to burnout, and that's bad.
element of risk, but the window
More chip,
to actually punish is tiny.
more chip.
You're tapping forward
Uses parry. He's really close.
parry and can immediately go back to block if you fail. This is
Empty. So he lost all of his gauge.
not to say
So now he's in burnout. So he does generate gauge back if you watch,
in part due to
but if you notice his gauge, he has to earn all of this gauge to be able to use any of his drive moves. Being in burnout stage is a severe disadvantage. Not having access to OD moves, not having access to parry, drive impact, not having access to drive reversals. I don't know if I said that already. Not having access to all of this is important, as well as if he takes a drive impact, he will get put in a stun state. I have seen reports saying that when you're in burnout, you do move slow. You're slower, you take more damage, and you do less damage. I don't think that has been confirmed yet, at least by me. I've been at work all day, but that's what I've heard. So again, being in burnout is super bad.
for having to low
And immediately he just dies. The snowball effect could be really bad, and the snowball effect is going to be worse against a character, I think, like Jamie, whose drink goes up, so he's going to be doing more damage, having more access to moves, and you're going to have less access to moves, maybe moving slower, maybe doing less damage. You see, like it's all of this imbalance that will take place so quickly.
You spend half a bar for a single parry attempt, and if you hold parry, your bar will slowly tick down, only being recharged if you successfully parry an attack.
If you press the parry, you lose an initial burst of your gauge. After that, if you hold it down, you can still parry, and it's going to be treated like an advancing guard. Advancing guard, faultless defense from Strive. If you do parry a move while in that state, you do get some gauge back. But while you are in that parry state, not parrying anything, you're going to slowly lose gauge. So as we saw from the last match, you saw how quickly you can lose gauge, and it's going to be really important to time your parries well. However, if you have gauge, you can always use it if you're unsure on defense. Although I do like the fact that there is a benefit and that there is a clear cost, and it's something that you have to question whether or not you want to use. Successfully parrying and being able to read your opponent's going to be really important. It also looks like
Your parry attempt
Ryu gets a hard knockdown on sweep, so maybe sweeps you always get a hard knockdown.
you'll lose extra meter, which is huge.
Let's go back to that real quick. Let me look at Chun-Li's gauge, right? So let's look at the gauges, right? So Ryu, all right, gets the counter hit.
You
Ryu is getting some gauge back for successfully hitting.
which is
Chun-Li doesn't seem like she loses any drive gauge for that, though.
Punish your parry
Let's see.
attempt. You lose extra meter.
So Chun-Li does lose some from getting hit by the super art. So maybe getting hit by super arts takes away little chips of your drive gauge.
You can also run cancel parries, which
Kikoken looks so cool.
unfortunately I haven't got the footage.
Was that the OD Kikoken?
You can also
Kikoken,
run cancel
Kikoken.
parries, which unfortunately
OD one. That's
I
so
haven't got
fast.
the
Holy
footage.
crap.
A big chance experience. Run canceling perfect parry.
Throws leave you kind of close. Oh, you can back roll, which is nice because you can also back roll throws, which is great, right? So we see it here. She back rolls. OD bird kick. That is quite the frame. OD bird kick actually moves forward too, which is kind of nice. Now, I'm assuming since bird kick is invincible, since they're using the OD version. It's so weird saying OD. I believe it puts her in a counter hit state. So if you look at this throw, it actually gets a different animation. And I'm assuming it's because after blocking the spinning bird kick, you actually get a counter hit state. Now, the throw does a hard knockdown. So you can actually clearly see the difference between these knockdowns, right? He's gonna get a throw here, which seems like it has a lot of range, right? So Ryu gets a throw here. She's able to back rise. And then Ryu throws, gets the punish counter. And now we see on the right side, hard knockdown. But that wasn't a hard knockdown. Do hard knockdowns in this game, do hard knockdowns mean that you were just forced to get up and not being able to back roll? Is that what that means?
You are not actually plus. This is basically a...
You are able to counter hit. And I think since this is an early build, some of these things will change. You get counter hits,
You are not actually
but
plus.
you don't actually like... This is like a clash, right? So it shows both of them getting a counter hit, and this is just a trade, right? Do both characters take damage?
But from lights or fireballs,
I think
you
so.
are not actually plus.
Yeah, both characters take damage here. These are two lights. I don't know if there's a priority system in this game. However, it seems like you can clash, but you still take the damage, and both characters got counter hits. I don't know if that will stay, but we'll see.
This is basically a...
I do like that you get pushed back, though.
Fireballs, you are not actually plus.
So it's not like, oh, we both trade, one of us has better advantage, I can trade combo. You know what I mean?
This is...
You just clash, you get pushed out. That's not bad. I just wish it didn't do damage.
Never have access to.
Jumps don't seem like they have the same forward trajectory either. So I believe dashes also don't give the same thing. So it incentivizes forward movement.
So many of your tools are entirely...
So again, throw into back roll, huge.
Invincible move.
And again, right now Chun-Li has CA. If we see on the bottom right, since she's close to death, her gauge actually turns to CA. I wonder if you need 3 bars for it though. So Ryu gets a parry, but he doesn't get the perfect parry.
Not only will you spend this meter yourself,
Let's see. Ryu doesn't get the perfect parry. I wonder how many frames you have. When does he start? When is it active? So he starts it now. 1, 2. So I don't know if this technically starts it, because he does get the flat 1, 2, 3, 4. 4th frame. So maybe it's like a 3-frame window because he doesn't go into the animation. Actually, no, I'm sorry. His gauge doesn't deplete till 1, 2, the 2nd frame, right? So maybe that's like animation stuff. This is 2nd frame, 3rd frame, 4th frame is when he gets his gauge back. So I'm wondering if this is the frame where it was active since he actually goes into the motion, the 3rd frame, but it just shows the animation for the gauge coming back on the 4th frame, kind of like here. I'm assuming the button was pressed here, but it only gave the gauge, it only showed the gauge deplete on frame 2. So I'm not sure about that. I think 3 frames for the perfect parry probably is somewhere around where we are going to be. If it's 2 frames, that's huge, right? That's actually like really tight. But I thought that was like right on, and he didn't get it. He got the gauge back, but he doesn't get the slowdown.
but it actually functions as a guard bar. attacks, it drains the drive bar.
So Theoryfighter also talks about, by the way, this is an awesome frame. Like, he's just keep posting. That the drive gauge also functions as a guard bar. All right, so as you block, you also lose some of your gauge, but using your parry, you get it back. So it's a really nice give and take when it comes to how you deal with your guard.
When it's at 0, well,
that's a lot of chip, but this is blocked. So they're at 4.5 bars.
0,
they lost like a quarter of their bar.
very slow bar fill.
Oh, that looks so cool.
Very slow.
So why did he get hit? I guess he just didn't block. So, okay, if you don't block, maybe it goes into the full animation, but if you block, you get the guard crush, but you don't get a full combo. But even in this state, you just get knocked back.
Drive Rush is kind of like a Street Fighter 4 focus attack. It has multiple hits of armor and it guard crushes you. However, if you're in the corner, it will...
I'm assuming he means drive impact, not drive rush.
Wall splat on hit or block, giving you a combo. Not only this...
He gets a wall splat on block?
Hit or block, giving you a combo.
Oh.
Not only this...
Oh. Oh. I don't like that.
Or block, giving you a combo.
Because he cancels this. He cancels this from a normal.
Giving you a combo. Not only...
And it only takes a bar to do this.
this.
And that seems fast.
From normal. So this is...
And look how close you are. This is like mega important. This is like important to the flow of the game, right?
Now,
so if you're exhausted, right? If you are in burnout, it will stun you.
This move
and you go into full stun.
Connects with you.
Now, important. Look at your drive bar. You get stunned for a bit, but you also fall down, right? What's important though is as you get up, you get your drive back. My assumption is that you don't want to go into a stun state. You don't want to put your opponent in a stun state unless you can kill them. Although this is not a comeback mechanic, but if you're trying to end the round, giving an opponent all this gauge back, seeing as it's 1, your guard gauge, 2, you give them back OD moves, 3, you give them back parry, 4, you give them back drive impact, 5, you give them back drive rush, you give them back everything. So even though this isn't a comeback mechanic, if you exhausted a lot of your gauge to put them in the exhausted state, and then they have their full, it's kind of like using your V trigger and they still have their V trigger, if that makes sense. Having a command over the flow of the gameplay like this, I think is going to be really high tier. This is going to be like what the highest tier is going to look like. In Street Fighter 5, if you're going up against a person that has a really strong V trigger that forces you to guess, or if you have to get put into states where they are plus a lot, think Cody's V trigger with knife, think Aegis, think the Tengu Stone, anything where an opponent has such strength, don't pop V trigger. Don't pop V trigger first, save it for trying to get out of their bullcrap. I think it's going to be the same thing in this. You don't want to blow your whole gauge and then not have resources when they try to mount a comeback.
But the big thing is,
so this we see, this is the drive rush.
you get a slightly bigger one if they're exhausted.
So Jamie cancels this into another move. Now this took a lot of their gauge. This took, I think, 3 bars. Yep, that's half their gauge right off rip. So again, when I say managing your drive gauge is going to be important, like this is what I mean. But like, think about it. They could punish something from far away, hit confirmed, use drive rush, got in for like an extended combo, and then maybe end it with like critical art. And if you were close to dead, you do more damage. This could have been a huge comeback potential.
The big thing is how you escape this situation. Well,
some throws do leave them kind of far away though.
The drive rush or drive rush.
That's pretty cool. There should be a rock, paper, scissor when it comes to this, right? Drive parry should beat drive impact. Drive impact should beat strikes, and throws should beat parry. Drive impact can also probably be thrown on startup, but also parry will beat drive impact. So I think like having these clear counters will be good. And I also think that strikes should beat throws on the same frame. I think if throws beat strikes in this game like they do in Street Fighter 5, I think throws will be really, really strong in this game as well. Because that's the biggest problem, is that there isn't a clear mechanic that counters throws. So the parry, and then you get back your gauge, right? Watch this.
If you have drive bar, you can just parry.
So look how much gauge he's used. He has used a full gauge almost, right? Takes chip, boom, got all of his gauge back. That's a lot of gauge that he gets back, which is nice. So you can always parry the drive impact. Now this one didn't. It actually crushed. Why did it crush?
Well, I didn't see it. You can go through as well with a bit of invulnerability. But without those things...
Oh, because he didn't use parry?
Well, I didn't see it. You can go through as well.
Yes, he didn't. Okay, cool, cool, cool. So that is the clear way to beat it. You have to parry it. And if you don't, you get crushed. In the corner, it's a wall splat. That's rough.
To regain your drive bar.
So that's the first hit.
And
second hit, boom. I think you get that big splat if it's a punish counter. He's recovering from that second hit, or a counter hit probably if it's on the same frame.
Parries will impact the game in a really big way.
Everything looks so cool. The blowback, which is cool too, right? It's cool that like, look how far you get knocked back if you get hit by it. If you block it and you get hit by it, you do get knocked back quite a bit. And you don't even take damage, which is cool too. It does force you back, which is good for the defender, but it's also bad because the defender gets pushed into the corner more.
I can summarize my...
But everyone's walk speed is so fast, so you saw how fast he just regained that space?
I feel like it's based on Street Fighter 2.
Oh, there is the drive rush into throw. That's pretty cool, right? So you can throw out a long range attack and then try to sneak in a throw. The problem is he used half his gauge. Oh, Jamie's hair looks so good. Think about how Jamie's hair looks in comparison to Ken's, like all this Play-Doh chunky hair. This looks amazing. There's still some clipping, but it's still like comparatively looks great.
You all know I adore ST.
That was 3 lights there.
And you all know I adore...
That was 3 lights that all connected. I was in Brian F's chat when he talked about this, and he questioned if you could have used something there. You probably could have used super art. You probably could have used OD. Those are 2 things that probably are quick enough to connect with those lights.
If I want to play ST, I'll play ST.
That lunge punch did so much damage. He's at 4 drink level. So this is what I mean, right? He starts to steamroll very fast. Watch. Boom. Boom. Look at the damage you can see up here. Look at that move. That does so much. That was an overdrive move, I believe, right?
I want to play ST.
That's not even overdrive. That's just a special move. Damn. That's a lot of damage for non-overdrive moves.
Version of the title I love is
really, like, whiffing a parry is pretty bad.
not having a game.
And Ryu, I'm assuming, is trying to look for the lunge punch because he'll die. So he throws out a parry. And this is Jamie's dive kick. Actually has horizontal range, which is kind of cool. Like, even though he comes straight down, that looks really cool. And it's fast as hell. It's probably because of his drink range, his drink gauge as well. But it actually will hit air to air.
Arrogantly thinking I could probably predict how it was going to play.
That's so cool. You can see how much the hair clips. But again, even though this looks like spaghetti, I prefer this over so much of the hair in Street Fighter 5.
Street Fighter 4 to Street Fighter 5 wasn't huge.
That's so much flashing lights, chat. Like, again, I'm not a fan of this. Like, watch the screen. Like, there's a lot of flashing lights going on. Very quickly, too. Like, the screen goes almost completely black. And then back to bright. This is too much, chat. Look away if you have any kind of issues. Yeah, look. It's too much. It looks nice, but it's just so much light. Like, why does the screen need to do this? For like 1 frame.
5 wasn't huge.
It doesn't need to do all of that. That's just too much. I have a feeling after this, if he parried, it would have been a perfect parry, right? So assuming that he's like +2 or 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, probably. That seems like a 5-frame jab. So if it's like a 5-frame jab and that stand strong was, it left him at like a +2 or 3, probably a guaranteed perfect parry.
Thank you again to Capcom and the amazing staff that let this.
So this is what I mean by getting a punish counter on a throw. It's not clear what Ryu tried to do, but how is this different from? Oh, he tried to parry. He tried to parry and he got thrown for it, right? And you notice he gets a special animation for it. And I think that they are forced to get up at the same timing, because if you look here, it says hard knockdown. So I'm assuming he can't back roll this. So this will be good for like the corner and setting up meaties, setups, anything along those lines. So that was a good video. Guys, go on over. I'm gonna put it in the description to Theoryfighter. They do have great videos. Check them out. And thank you again for the footage. We learned a lot today. Hopefully tomorrow we will have more information. I'm gonna try to put out as much as I can find on this, but hopefully you guys liked the video. Go check out Theoryfighter. And again, thank you for watching.